Well, there you go. Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Sports Crib. I see all my guys are down here waiting and raring to go. Might be a little short one tonight. A few little birthday celebrations. Bo, how you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Happy 79. I'm, you know,
Happy
jumping up and
birthday.
down. So,
79. That's a big one.
what's up there, Dave? How you doing?
Hey, happy
Thanks.
birthday, James.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And there's Mr. Hayes. How you doing down there in Texas, Don?
Doing good. We heard the fireworks for your birthday all the way down here, so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you only turn 79 once, right?
Well, if you're Hindu, you can come back reincarnate and repeat it. But you're a Baptist, right?
No, there's a few times I thought about that though, Don. Believe me, like, what? Here I am again. What do you mean? No, so, but hey, guys, it's. I think the most amazing thing to me is that this is Super Bowl 60. Uh, like already, what the hell happened here? Where'd those 60 years go all of a sudden? You know, but it looks like it's going to be a good one. There's a couple of little things I guess we might as well get out of the way since we're talking football. And Bo, I'm going to start with you here. Are we going to have a running back in the top 10 this year?
You know, it's tough to pick a running back in the top 10. Just the way the NFL has evolved. If there is a guy, though, it's probably Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. He was third in the Heisman voting. Doak Walker Award winner, right? Rushes over 1,300 yards. The only thing is, he has 18 touchdowns. That's not a ton. He had 3 receiving. Now Notre Dame, they tend to throw the ball towards the end zone anyway. But if there was a guy, that's probably the only guy I can think of that would potentially breach the top 10. First round pick, probably. It's always tough to see a running back go in the top 10.
What do you think there, Don?
I agree. I mean, outside Love, I can't think of anyone. The running back from Arkansas, and Arkansas wasn't very good this year, but they had a running back, can't remember his name. But he's tough, but I mean, he's probably a third or fourth rounder. But I think Love would be the cream of the crop as far as running backs go. And I think you're going to see quarterbacks, linebackers, and linemen taken in first 10 picks. Maybe a safety or a corner.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is the fungibility of the running back, and that's showed in the way they're compensated, their pay, and everything. And they tend to have shorter careers. And, I mean, you got to look since, Bijan Robinson, he was a top 10 pick in 2023. And then before him, it was Saquon Barkley going back to 2018. So, the time of when teams would build around a running back are long over. And I think, what happens is teams see that, okay, we'll get 5 years out of these guys in a 5-year contract and then maybe sign them to a second contract. But a lot of times it's like, okay, we'll get another young guy back in. So, I agree. I had noted Love from Notre Dame as if there is going to be one in the top 10, he's the guy. But he might be in the second half of the first round, unless there's a team really hurting for a running back.
Genty went in the top 10 too, right? Or in the top 10? Like wasn't he like 6th or 7th or something?
Genty?
Yeah, Ashton Genty. I thought he was a top 10 pick.
I'd have to look. Whenever I looked, I just saw Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson in the last game.
I got you.
Now,
Yeah, I think I could have sworn it was, but maybe not. Maybe not.
With that said, Saquon and Bijan have been outstanding for their teams. So maybe someone will try to catch lightning the ball again and take Love, but we'll see.
Don, is Debo a snitch?
Yeah, he is. He is, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all because there's a lot of shady stuff going on out there. That's the thing about the whole transfer portal. There's rules that are written, but they're not enforced. And if you have rules and laws that aren't enforced, they're worth nothing. Why have them? I mean, so yeah, I agree with Dabo. There was some very unethical things being going on, and this coach has a history of doing shit like that. And I'm glad Dabo stepped up, and I would hope other coaches would come forward and say, yeah. So shit's going on to LSU. They should just crack down on it. But I think the coaching fraternity has an unwritten rule themselves that you don't, go after other coaches. But Dabo's, I don't care.
Snitches get stitches, right?
That's right.
Get stitches, end up in ditches.
So,
go to prison and become bitches.
So, what's up, Bill? How you doing?
Doing well. I hope you're doing well also.
Doing fine. Excellent there, my man. Thank you. We were just asking, Bill, did Dabo snitch?
I mean, it depends on how you define the term.
That's a low-key yes.
I would say he provided information to the authorities. I think that part is clear.
It depends what you mean by sex.
Yes, there you go. But the definition of is.
What do you think there, Bo?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Like, yep.
Dave?
Yeah, and Genty, he was number 6 last year.
Okay, I thought so.
Running back, he was, but it's still pretty. It's not common anymore.
It's rare.
Yeah, my running backs picked in the top 10.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, running backs at this point are like second rounders for your top guys most of the time.
Right. So with Dabo, here I'll answer the question with the question. If I send the police a video of somebody stealing my car, am I a snitch? I mean, really. I mean, I think actually Dabo was right.
Yep.
If these guys were cheating,
yes,
we just had a big discussion about this about Belichick, last week.
Right.
But if the guys are cheating, they're going after his players. He's a victim.
Yeah.
So shouldn't he have every right to call them out?
Sure.
And this whole thing about snitches get stitches and all this kind of bullshit. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And we laugh about it, but yeah, that's a problem. And if it would be one thing if he were making allegations that didn't have any. He was just miffed because he lost the guy in a fair competition, and then he's that would be one thing. But I mean, hey, if the guy found poaching his players and they were breaking the rules, well, then what are the rules there for?
Well, that's a great question. But
I don't know if we have a long enough show for that.
No. Oh, I was just wondering how you guys thought about that, in I guess the age of the portal, like if you, what is it? What's the old saying? If you ain't cheating, you ain't winning.
Cheating, you're trying, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the real lesson, if there is one, is that all of the rules that used to be in place, even though unwritten ones, have changed.
Yes.
Right? In the old days, in the good old or bad old days, depending on who you are, I guess good old for Dabo, because there was a time when if you were a player from Georgia and you weren't going to Georgia, you were coming to Clemson, right? I mean, that was those are right. I mean, that was like maybe not 100% of the time, but 70 to 80% of the time. Everyone from South Carolina and North Carolina who was good was going to Clemson. And he would get 4 or 5 of the top 50 from the rest of the country, right? And all he had to say was, "Hi, we're Clemson." I mean, it wasn't like a very complicated pitch, right? It was like it was like he had to bolster it with a lot of other. They didn't need a PowerPoint presentation. It's like, this is Clemson. We run down here, we touch a rock, and then I send you to the NFL in 3 years. And they were like, "Where do I sign?" And it was very simple. It was a simpler time.
Yeah.
And now Indiana just won the national championship. So it's clear that all the things that used to be true have ceased to be true. And I'm not one of those. I mean, as has been mentioned in the past, I grew up in the home of a prosecutor, at least for a while. My mother was what's called a Commonwealth attorney, which is because, like Massachusetts and Kentucky, Virginia's fancy, so they don't call them state's attorneys. But so I got to go to court, in the summertime. If I didn't have a sport or something to do, I would be sitting in court watching, a very disinterested. That's how I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer, because real court is nothing like television, people. But
I can kind of relate to that, Bill. But
right, I see exactly. I know you know. There's no like breathtaking moments where people are like, right? Never. 3 years I sat waiting for one of those.
Trust me, on the other side, there was a whole lot of those.
Well, maybe on the other side. But in the real world, right? And that's what we're talking about. No, the real world, not the world where Dabo lived and still wants to live. And the real world of college football, big bank, take little bank, right? For those that are not familiar with the macroeconomics. And then to further expand, in the words of the philosopher, economist, Fat Joe, yesterday's price is not today's price. And once you are wrapped your brain around those two pillars of modern college football, that big bank, take little bank, and yesterday's price is not today's price. Once you thoroughly grasp those two things, you're now ready to plant your feet and move in a different and new direction. Texas Tech is not going anywhere. They're going to be a national contender from now on, right? Get used to it. That's like certain things have changed, and they're unlikely to change back. The idea that Texas, simply by being UT, being Texas Austin, is automatically the king of the state of Texas, and by extension of the southwestern quadrant, I'm saying it's over. But the idea they're simply going to throw their Stetson out there and just rule the day, that is over. That is over. The hegemony is over.
Don, is that blasphemy he's talking there or what?
Well, I see his point, because Texas, missed the playoffs this year.
They're still going to be good. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but the idea that Texas being Texas is just going to be enough. You can't just walk into a kid's house and say, we're Clemson or we're Texas. Like that part, that's dead. That's gone. And it's never coming. That's not coming back. You now have to have something to say after that.
So that's the thing that makes me laugh about the situation. Like, obviously tampering happened, and he is the victim in that situation.
Yes.
At the same time, in the old system, of course he liked the old system, because if you were a big program, your tampering wasn't hard and not everyone could do it. Right. So you could tamper by saying, I'm Texas or I'm Georgia, and you could do that. You could tamper very easily, because you could just walk up and be like, yeah, I'm Georgia. You should probably leave this school. Whereas now, because the NIL, the tampering is more professional style, right? It's more like in the NFL. And I get he's mad about it, But when you were a big program and you could tamper in a very easy way, it's not like it wasn't available to him and probably didn't happen before, right? It was just within the confines of what was unwritten, and people didn't do anything about it. So I don't feel that bad for him. Everybody has the opportunity to do the same amount of tampering. Do I think the NIL is dumb? Absolutely. Like I hate the fact that they rolled this thing out with no guardrails, and they're like, I don't know why it's just chaos. It's like, yeah, because you guys are stupid. It's the NCAA. It's the only way they operate.
I love that it's chaos. I mean, that's my favorite part of it, is that it's chaos and that nobody understands it or does it well. Well, I mean, heard that some do it well, actually, but a lot of people don't do it well, even though they probably should. USC should be killing it, right? They live in an entertainment town with a beautiful campus in more ways than one. We'll talk about that off air. And they have gobs of money, right? So it proves, just like, that money by itself is not enough, right? Because if it were just money and just being able to throw resources at the problem, USC should be the national champion like 3 years in a row. So what I like about it is that if you're not smart about how you do this, just having a lot of money won't be enough. I like things that gore the old ox. I like things that tear down the old system. I do. I am an iconoclast. I do like seeing the old thing kind of knocked off its pillars. And the idea that you can just walk in and say, I'm Alabama or I'm Texas or I'm Clemson, and that's it, and you walk out with the kid, I'm glad that you have to work harder. I'm thrilled that player empowerment, even though it's incredibly unguided and messy and, as you said, stupid. I'll back you up on the stupid part. But I like this stupid better than the old stupid where the players had no power.
That will change. That's going to change over time. I mean, it's just like now the players have agents. The difficulty is that those agents aren't overseen, and they can be the players can be exploited. Well, that's going to change over time.
Yeah.
So, sometimes there's just a little bit of pain or stupidity that goes along with the change, but hopefully it changes in a positive way. And so far, and this is more with the transfer portal, but NIL is a part of it. Having Indiana and Miami in the national championship, I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
Well, and it is changing. It is changing fairly rapidly. Not being helped by the NCAA, mind you. Right. What's being helped is the companies that are giving money are like, hey, we need some verbiage in here that protects us. And so the guardrails are getting put on from the backside because they're like, look, this kid can just leave. And so that's where you started to see, like the player from Washington, where the verbiage in there is, hey, we're not gonna put you in the portal, and you would have to pay all this money back. There's still nothing, and people are like, oh, that's unfair to the kid and whatever. The thing that's funny about it is there's still nothing. It just says you can't go in the portal. There's nothing to say that you can't withdraw from the school and go apply to the one that just said they'd give you more money. You can still do that. It just takes some effort on the kid's part. And apparently that is hard to do. But but I mean, the kids can still go pursue that. If they want to pay back whatever the thing was and not have the school put them in the portal, they still have the opportunity to go to the school they want that offered them money. They just have to do a little more legwork. So just because you're lazy doesn't mean the option isn't there.
Don, I think, let's see. No, you were here last week when we were talking about Mr. Belichick and his snub. Now it also seems that Mr. Kraft has been snubbed also. Is this a Patriot thing now? They say Tom's worried about his first ballot.
Well, I think I can't remember who it was last week said that this is payback for the filming and the deflated balls and everything. So I think there might be vendetta against the organization, not just Belichick. I think it might go all the way to the top. Apparently so, which I kind of get. I mean, and Kraft also, didn't he have the problem with the massage parlor chicks.
Oh, it wasn't the problem.
He was just
Apparently,
saying, give it a hand. That's all.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. The massage went perfect.
yeah, it wasn't a problem for him at all. But you know,
Keep rubbing this genie in the right place. So you get your 3 wishes, right?
Now, I mean, it's funny because like some of it, obviously, there's some of it was petty factor at 1,000, right?
Yep.
Where you're just like, hey, you were a jerk to the media.
Everyone.
The media votes on this stuff. They're justifying it by the scandals, right? But the scandals probably aren't what happened there. It's just, it lets them justify it in a meaningful way. Obviously, you have a Colts member in the panel. So, you know, you got somebody to help with the rally cry. And the other people that are in there, they're like, look, Bill was a jerk to us all the time. You have a guy in here that was directly affected by a scandal. Sure, I'll bite. Let's keep him out. And because you have Kraft going in at the same time, if your justification is the scandal, there's no way you can put Kraft in at the same time. Otherwise, you just undermine the whole thing you just tried to prove, right? So you're going to be like, look, Kraft has to wait too because he was involved in this scandal. And so if we're going to keep Bill out, we have to keep him out. We got to at least keep some sort of consistency. Otherwise, we look like total douchebags. But Brady, on the other hand, he's got a couple of years yet. And so there's a chance, because he's a media member, that they're like handshakes, wink, eyes. Yeah, you're in. But if he doesn't get in, then at least they were consistent.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, number one, I'm fine with them being delayed going in. And in the case of Kraft, he's been eligible for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, whatever it's been.
Yep.
But I think that although all of a sudden it's highlighted the whole Deflategate and the Spygate, they could just be a victim of what has been set up. Because what happened is whenever the NFL celebrated their 100th year,
Right.
they had these extra large classes put in. And Bill Cowher benefited. I don't think Bill Cowher would have gotten into the Hall of Fame if it hadn't been for these expanded classes that they put in. Well, then the NFL said, well, we got to kind of correct that. You know, the pipeline has gotten too large. And then the other thing is we want to have something set aside to kind of make sure that contributors and coaches have a chance. Well, what their solution is that they put the coaches, the contributors together with the players that are veteran players that are beyond the original voting. These are, you know, like Anthony's, Jim Marshall, my LC Greenwood, these guys.
Right.
And then what they did is for the 50 voters, they said you have 3 votes. And you can vote for Belichick, you can vote for Kraft, you can vote for LC Greenwood, you can vote for Kenny Anderson, or you can vote for Roger Craig.
Yeah.
Whoever got the highest amount automatically goes into the Hall of Fame, and even if they're below 80%. But you had to have, in order for anybody else to go in, you had to have over 80% of the vote.
Right.
Well, the way it's set up, like some of the guys may have been making a choice between Belichick and Kraft and saying, okay, I'm going to go with Roger Craig and LC Greenwood, and well, I'll do Kraft. And it may not have actually had anything to do with the cheating scandal, but it's the way it's set up where they've put the contributors, which that would be the category Kraft is in.
Right.
And I don't know what he's contributed to the NFL other than being an owner, and Belichick as a coach. And then you had these 3 players, and Roger Craig was the only one that survived. To me, the biggest travesty out of this is LC Greenwood not getting in. If Anthony were on here, he'd be saying Jim Marshall should have gotten it, although he didn't make it to the finals.
But if you spin it this way, say there's not a scandal, okay? So the scandals didn't happen. They won those. There's no question marks. Bill also isn't a huge jerk to the media. right? And obviously, this is like cupcakes and rainbows and got it.
Oh,
But,
no, that could hurt them. I agree with you there. I mean, you know, your interpersonal, your interactions with the voters, any voters, whether they're players or whether they're journalists or whether they're us, we're going to be impacted by our personal interactions with whoever the candidates are.
But what my point is here is in a scenario where the off the field stuff wasn't a factor, and you look at his career where he wins 6, wins 8, if you include being an assistant. And, you know, you look at the first half of his career, it's a Hall of Fame career. You look at the second half of his career, it's a Hall of Fame career. Just happens to be the same guy. Second wins. Like, I mean, there's very little else that could be accomplished from the position he's in. Like he owns the records for just about everything. How is that not a Hall of Fame? You know?
Yeah, but you can look at L.C. Greenwood and like what the one journalist, the one guy that did explain his votes, he said that he voted for L.C. Greenwood. He voted for he voted for the players,
right?
Yeah.
Because he felt the players were the ones that merited entrance into the Hall of Fame. He said he wasn't voting against Belichick. He didn't even mention Kraft. But for him, it was like this is for the players, and those 3 players are deserving.
Well, and of course,
it's the way it's set up. And the thing is now if they find that they were colluding, because they're supposed to be supposedly anonymous votes.
Yeah,
Julian tried to say he couldn't remember. At first, he didn't remember whether he did or didn't, and then he admitted that he did vote. He claims that he voted for Belichick to go in, but these are supposed to be 50 people just voting on their own. As if the 5 of us did our ballots and voted on these 5 guys, well, it might be an interesting result who got in.
No, and I mean, obviously players, especially if they're in the last year of eligibility, those types of things absolutely matter.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if you're talking about a guy that's a first ballot option, but you have a guy that's on his last option to get in, yeah, you're going to look real hard at that, right?
Well, and this is what this guy, exactly what you're saying is this guy was explaining was that because the seniors can be in forever. They can be in for 100 years.
Yeah.
But what he was explaining is that once you become a finalist, if you don't make it to the Hall of Fame, your chance of coming back as a finalist become very, very slim.
Very small.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so in effect, it's a de facto last swag.
Yeah, well, I mean, baseball's similar, right? Yeah. Like if you don't start to see that percentage rise towards the end, like you're just not going to get in. You know, and we've seen that plenty of times. Obviously, Omar Vizquel is, you know, his next time through is the last time. He's probably not going to make it. So I mean, that's definitely a consideration. There's no question.
Bill, you want to give a last thought on that?
Comments there. Belichick probably does get in next year.
Probably, you know.
Especially because of all this publicity.
Yeah, and I think you know we had said last week. It's you know it's not that they're not going to get in; they're just not the first ballot.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, did you want me to do the Sue's Corner, James?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sue's Corner, and it'll be an interesting thing. Back to the Olympics this week. Last week, we talked about how those supposed paragons of virtue, the Norwegians, were caught in a pretty significant cheating scandal in the ski jump world. And now we have our, quote, lovely, friendly, everyone thinks they are great, unquote, Canadian neighbors manipulating the skeleton team selections. Skeleton is one man, basically super sophisticated, crazy fast sledding. In order to qualify for the Olympics, there is a convoluted point structure that determines not only if an individual qualifies, but how many sleds each country has in the race. Canada was in a tight spot for Olympic qualification in women's singles skeleton, at risk of losing one of its 2 quota spots. South Korea, one of the closest challengers for a second sled, had 2 athletes in the race. This was a qualifying race. In the end, Canada qualified 2 sleds for the Olympics that are going to be held in Milan Cortina, the lowest ranked country to do so. They did this by pulling a team who had no chance of qualifying at the last minute, which resulted in less sledders in the qualifying event. The less sledders you have, the less amount of points you can score toward Olympic qualification. With only 19 athletes on the track instead of 23, points for each finisher dropped by 25%, giving Canada an advantage in protecting its position as a country qualifying 2 Olympic sleds. That left other hopefuls, including American Katie Ulander, with fewer opportunities to climb the standings. Ulander won the race, but earned just 90 points instead of the usual 120. 1 week later, the final standings were in. She missed a spot on the U.S. Olympic team by 18 points.
Oh, man.
The shakeup didn't just affect the Americans. Athletes from Denmark, Colombia, Finland, the Virgin Islands, and Malta were all competing in Lake Placid with eyes on the final Olympic spots. And Team Canada's decision made their paths even tougher. Ulander and several other athletes appealed the decision. The International Bobsleigh and Skeletons Federation Appeals Tribunal concluded this week that Team Canada intentionally influenced the outcome of the North American Cup in Lake Placid. The report goes on to state, quote, although Canada subsequently attributed its decision to order 4 athletes not to slide in official training to concerns about the athletes involved, substantial evidence supports Ms. Ulander's contention that the move was a deliberate effort by Canada to reduce the points available at the final Lake Placid so as to protect its own Olympic quotas, unquote. Despite these findings, the tribunal is not adjusting the results to give Ulander a chance to qualify. In this case, the cheaters did win. Boo on you, Canada. And
So
that's his corner.
realistically, in just about every case, the cheaters win. They very rarely actually take. Like, think about it. The Patriots got to keep those rings. The Astros get to keep their ring. Like, they don't actually do anything. They're like, oh, we're going to take some draft picks. Like, cool. I still go down as winning a trophy. So, I mean, generally the cheaters have a tendency to win.
Yeah.
Michigan.
So just so I'm clear, the skeleton, that is the like a single bobsled. It looks like they're on a shop creeper head down.
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
I couldn't remember, but I thought that's what it was.
So what's the difference between the luge and the skeleton? I thought luge was the single.
The luge is even flimsier. I don't know how you talk yourself into getting on that thing.
Your leg first, though. Your
Right.
leg first on the luge.
And your legs first.
And you're on a skateboard.
I know I had a cousin who won the silver in the bobsled.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So for the guys that weren't here last week, the Norwegian issue was like some type of padding or something in their suits that bulged out their crotch.
Oh.
Which affected the aerodynamics, which would give them like another meter or 2 of extension on their ski
Yeah, it
jump.
does. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Yep. Gives you that extension. Yeah.
Those aerodynamics, you know.
It's a good thing this is the late show.
I need
Heyo.
to explain to my wife what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say Verga Grande.
Going to do a demonstration or just verbal?
Just tell her what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Don
has to put on a skin tight suit, but it works.
Full disclosure, she's next to me. She listens to the show while she knits. And so every once in a while I'll say something in Spanish like Verga Grande and
She's wondering why when you jump, you drift to the right.
Little Peyronie's disease.
Okay, guys.
This is After Dark.
Yes, it is. And speaking of After Dark, on this whole Patriots wait a year thing, these aren't even champagne problems. These are like uncut Peruvian cocaine problems. Like I really cannot work up even the tiniest bit of sympathy for either gentleman. They're both going into the Hall of Fame, probably together next year.
Yeah,
big whoop.
100%. Yeah. Or they're going to hold them so that Kraft, Belichick, and Brady all go in together.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better or worse, but okay.
Right. I think that. Oh no, no. Yeah, I think that would really go well.
Oh, it'd be terrible. It'd be terrible.
So, guys, thinking of things terrible here, I keep wondering how guys that are not successful keep getting jobs. But
welcome to America.
So I want to talk about some of these hires here, and but before we talk about that, I'm going to talk about something that I think we all know hasn't been stellar for the NFL or anything for that matter, except for maybe the name. So they're talking about revisiting the Rooney Rule. Dave, I'm going to give you first choice at this. First crack at this because it's named after the Rooneys, of course. But just because you make a rule, there are ways to skirt around the rule, as we all know and we have all seen. What do you think would be? Well, I don't know. Do you think that there's a way that they could effectively use the Rooney Rule?
Well, they have made changes to the Rooney Rule, and so number one,
it hasn't changed the results.
Well, I guess they can establish a quota. If you want to have a quota, okay. But the thing is there were 10 vacancies, and actually they were saying that there were no Rooney Rule hires, and that's incorrect. There was one who was Robert Saleh, who met the Rooney Rule requirements. And he was hired by the Titans as a head coach. But still, there's only like 3, with Mike Tomlin stepping away. And I'm not sure how McDaniel is classified, whether he fits that role or not. I don't know.
If you've seen
one drop rule
with Miami,
so you either had 1 or 2, lost. And in this case, and so to me, I think what the big issue is, it's the pipeline. And I think that over time, I think that the pipeline is getting better. And like, if you ever looked at the Steelers staff for the last few years, you would see what I mean. And so, like, for example, if you look now, they've expanded the Rooney Rule to include general managers as well as coordinators.
Yep.
And so there were 7. The article I read says African American, but I think the Rooney Rule is beyond just African Americans, minorities. But there were 7 coaches that were hired as offensive or defensive coordinators this cycle that meet the Rooney Rule requirements. And the thing is, it's like, probably 15, 20 years ago, you had the pipeline was probably fairly lily white. You probably didn't have any coordinators that fit that description, and not many of your position coaches. So you look at, okay, the Steelers, they hired Mike McCarthy. He doesn't fit that unless you want to call him Black Irish. But then you have they hired Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator, who does meet that. And so with these 7 guys that have been named offensive or defensive coordinators, now here's like a cadre. They're one step below the head coach, because normally you don't see a lot of head coaches hired directly from a position coach to a head coach. I think more and more it seems that the head coaches that they're hiring are pretty much have coordinator experience. So I mean, to me, I think that this should take care of itself over time. And especially when you look at the talent. I mean, I think that I'm very happy with Patrick Graham. He seems like the right fit, for the team. But I think short of, I mean, unless you want to just establish quotas, I think it's moving in the right direction. And they have made changes, to the Rooney Rule over time, which I think has helped.
Well, what's your thoughts here?
Sorry, what?
What's your thoughts here, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, just to go on the quota end of it, that would be tough, because if there's somebody that you want, then you're potentially forced into not hiring the guy you want. I mean, so I don't know, like that's a tough area to be. But to your point, I think the pipeline is getting a lot better, right? As far as the way that the league elevates talent and the amount of coordinators that are starting to fit the Rooney Rule. I think that I think you're right. I think there is an element that will start to work its way through.
Bill?
Well, the eventual solution is when the decision makers are not all white, right? And the number of GMs and presidents of football operations and whatever you call it in various places has begun on a very slow but steady uptick. And I think and of course the other thing was already mentioned is offensive coordinators, right? Not just coordinators. There have been plenty of black defensive coordinators for the past 20 plus years, but they are less attractive. Though we did see some D coordinators get head coaching positions, they tend to be less attractive because what's the first thing they ask you when they bring you in as the defensive coach? Who's going to be your offensive coordinator, right? Well, not to say you don't care about who the D coordinator is going to be when they bring in an offensive-minded coach. They are less panicked. For whatever reason, there seems to be less worry about how a offensive-minded coach will deal with the defensive side of the ball as opposed to the reverse. The fear is always that if you have a great coordinator helping out your defensive-minded head coach, you're going to lose them to, of course, becoming a head coach. But like I said, back to my original point, I truly believe that when the decision makers, because I don't believe there is like this, huge amount of, conscious racism left in the NFL, but there's a lot of, implicit bias everywhere. It's not just the NFL, it's everywhere. When people say, oh, I felt like that was someone I could really relate to, or I like the cut of his jib or whatever, it's more often than not, I can see a lot of myself in him. Like that tends to be someone that does resemble you, if not physically, then at least culturally and background and things like that. And so unless and until we do have that, slow, steady groundswell eventually flip. So we see if we can get to maybe even, in the 25 to 33 percentile range of the general managers / whatever you want to call them in your particular organization, decision makers being something other than, white guys who went to, Stanford MBA or, the Booth School in Chicago, or, there tends to be a type, right? You have the bean counters and the football guys, right? There's the Jason Lights, right? Guys, the meatheads, as I sometimes call them. And then the, Claudio Adolfo-Mensa, who recently got shown the door while he was in Mobile. I was like, wait a second. I was there. I was looking at him literally on the sidelines the day before he got the heave-ho. It's like, oh, wow. They couldn't wait for him to get back. But yeah, the fact is that that's still the main impediment, right? It's not, talent helps, but until the decision makers are able to see you as someone that they can feel comfortable with, for lack of a better putting it. No matter how impressive you are, you're not going to get the job at the same rate as someone they do feel that connection to.
What do you think, Don?
Yeah, well, that's a good point about how, the management has to change, for it to trickle down to the coaching. But I think it's step further. I'd like to see, like, the Rooney Rule extend all the way up to ownership. Now, I know there's some minority owners that have full control of the organization. What's it called? Part owners, I guess.
Managing general partner.
Yeah, general. Yeah. So I think that would help too, just have more of that in the ownership. And then, of course, GMs and presidents, of course. But, a lot of times director of scouting, those things can easily trickle down to, the coaching aspect.
Okay. Don, what do you think about LaFleur hiring Hackett to be his offensive coordinator at the Cardinals? Actually, I guess we should ask Bo more about that. Because that's his division.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they just hired convinces me they're really not worried about winning this division. You got LaFleur. We'll see what he can do. Hackett, we know what he can do. So, yeah, I mean, if you're an Arizona fan, you can't feel super enthusiastic about where this team is headed. You still have a Kyler Murray issue of whether or not he actually likes football. So, yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately for Cardinal fans, I think their team's still going to be a mess for a couple of years here.
Yeah.
They better draft well.
Bill, what did you think about Frank Reich coming back as the not yet's offensive coordinator?
We just had this whole thing about the Rooney Rule, right? And I mean, the real enemy, obviously, even non-minority coaches getting their shot is the Nathaniel Hackett's and the Frank Reichs and if people keep hiring Gus Bradley and whatever. When you keep recycling the same 8 or 9 dudes over and over and over and over again, I guess there should be what should I call it? Like what was his Bruce Coslet rule, right? So the Bruce Coslet rule says that if you were a head coach for 3 or more years and your winning percentage is below a certain number, you have to sit out for 2 years, right? 2 years. You can't be a coordinator or a head coach. Let somebody else get a chance before you stink it up again. So the Bruce Coslet rule would then make you, do something for 2 years. Play with your grandkids. Talk on television and realize how easy that money is, and maybe you'll never want to coach again. I mean, people can bring Gruden's name up. Gruden's loving his life. He's, making all this money. You have to get up at 3:18 in the morning anymore. But yeah, I mean, do something with your life for 2 years. If you have to figure out what the winning percentage cut. Somebody look up Bruce Coslet's the Coslet line, whatever his career winning percentage was. If you're at or below that number, you can't coach for 2 more years. But there should be something that makes you expand. That's what the Rooney Rule is supposed to do. It's not supposed to make you hire somebody. It's supposed to make you expand your search, right? That's what, when people whine about DEI doesn't make you hire anybody. And anyone who tells you that doesn't understand what DEI actually does. What DEI actually does, it makes you change your talent pipeline and expand your talent pipeline so that you at least give a shot to somebody besides the same old boy network you've been using forever. And then we get to see, the cold slap in the face of Frank Reich and Nathaniel Hackett. But at least Frank Reich has had some success, right? I mean, I can point to things that he's done as a coach and say, hey, he helped develop Andrew Luck. He did this. He did these things. But speaking of developing Andrew Luck, and I promise I'll get off the soapbox in a second, why is David Shaw not getting called in for things, right? A guy that was very important in developing Andrew Luck, has developed other successful quarterbacks. Going back to Josh Johnson, right? When he was on the original staff at University of San Diego, when Harbaugh got his first head coaching job, was a successful coach himself at Stanford, has been a successful assistant coach with 2 or 3 different franchises. and has helped the Detroit Lions most recently as their passing game coordinator. The thought that he isn't getting more discussion, more whatever, is mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling to me. The guy's a terrific coach. Has been coaching forever. Is a second-generation coach. His dad, Willie Shaw, was one of the pioneering black assistant coaches. He's been around the game his entire life, and he's brilliant. Whatever, off the soapbox. But it is a symptom of the issue when Nathaniel Hackett is still getting jobs.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, how is he still getting jobs? Because it's not like he's been good at any of the, like, even the places he's been, he's gotten demoted. Like, it's wild that he keeps getting jobs. So yeah, there's some disparity there.
Yeah. So I think let me see. I think there's somebody that I thought Mr. Scott would be here, but I guess not.
What? Not ducking out? Crazy.
So Dave, come on now. You know I need some explanations here. I don't know about the rest of these guys, but you got to talk to me about some of the hires here, because we talked about last week. To me they're all 5-year band-aids, but kind of explain to me what's going on within the organization. I heard you and the guys talking the other night for a minute there. So what's our plan? I don't see anybody that we're bringing along here as our next head coach, but what's the plan here as far as the insiders?
Well, one thing that's not the plan is the plan isn't to bring up your new head coach on your staff. That's not part of the plan. I think what they're looking for are two things. One is to be competitive in 2026 as they build the roster up so that they can draft a quarterback that's going to be the next Ben or Terry Bradshaw. So those are the two immediate tasks at hand: is identify a quarterback and remain competitive while you're doing that. So now it looks like the offense is going to the song that a lot of Steeler fans like to say, oh, the Rooneys are cheap, they don't pay and blah blah blah. But I mean, right now it looks like the staff is going to be bigger than it was, and what I think it is the coach's preference. What does the coach want?
Is bigger better?
What's that?
Is bigger going to be better?
Well, now that's what it's going to shift to. Before under Tomlin, it's like his staff isn't big enough. The Rooneys are cheap. They're not getting him the staff that he needs. Yet, whenever Brian Flores became available and was radioactive, Tomlin just had to walk down the door to say, "Hey, boss, I think we should bring this guy in," and they did. No questions asked. And actually, in a way, that probably hurt Art Rooney II with the other owners, because they were the ones blackballing Brian Flores. Right. And so I think that's a solve. Now the new thing is okay. Well, what are all these guys going to be doing? Well, I think that's what Mike McCarthy has said is I want to get guys that are going to fit in with us. Now he is going to be the offensive coordinator, or at least the play caller, right, is what he said. I was hoping that he'd bring in a younger guy to be the offensive coordinator, since they'll be developing the schemes, keeping things organized. But on game day, that turns over to Mike McCarthy. But they hired Minnesota's guy, Angel Chio, which I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's in his 50s. He's not going to be the next coach of the Steelers, but they've pretty much filled up the staff. They still have to name a tight ends coach on offense. That's one position that they have to fill. but they got James Campen, who's a pretty well-regarded offensive lineman, with Jari Evans, his assistant on the line. And what I like about that is a combination of old and young.
Right.
And then they hired Frank Signetti, who is the brother of Indiana's team. Okay, so they brought him in as a senior offensive assistant. So that's and these guys, and from what I understand about Angel Chio, is that he's a tight ends guy. He was a tight ends coach. And so, it looks like they're going to be trying to develop Darnell Washington, maybe give Pat Fryermuth more room to grow since under Arthur Smith, he wasn't getting the targets that people were looking for. Now, really, the most important coordinator to me is Patrick Graham on defense, because even when you listen to Mike McCarthy, he calls the defense them, not us. And he says us or we, he's talking about the offense. When he's talking about they, he's talking about the defense, which means that Patrick Graham is going to be running the show. And what I've heard about Patrick Graham so far, I mean, he was with the Raiders. And, if you look at their record, it's like, oh, man, they hired that guy as a defensive coordinator. He sucks. Just like, you're talking about Reich and Hackett and these guys. Well, the thing is what material did he have to work with? And he had Max Crosby. Well, what did he have beyond Max Crosby? He took Robert Spillane, who was a special teamer with the Steelers, and he turned into a starting linebacker who was the captain of their defense. And the thing that I especially like about Graham is his philosophy is adapting his scheme to the offense that they're playing, as well as to the talent that he has on the roster. So in other words, he's not stuck on a 3-4 or a 4-3, or hey, I'm gonna run this defense all year. He comes out of the Belichick school where he's trying to disrupt the offense. And he did, he kind of came out of New England a bit. He has some experience there. So for me, at the end of the day, it's to be determined. How do the players respond at camp? How do they respond on the field? And can they do it? But from what I'm seeing is they're putting together a pretty good staff. They hired this Scarnecchia who was involved. He was literally involved in the Spygate. He was the guy with the video camera, and now he's on the Steelers staff, which I find bizarre. But he's their chief of staff. So I don't know if he still has a video camera as part of his equipment or not. But I'm actually kind of encouraged. I think a lot of the Steeler fans that I've talked to, first of all, none of them expected McCarthy to be hired. Once he was hired, their immediate response is, we can't believe you did this. He's 62 years old. He's stuck in his ways. But Alex Kozora did an excellent article, a deep dive on McCarthy, including having clips of him working with Aaron Rodgers as a young quarterback, working on his foot positions and all this kind of stuff. So McCarthy is a guy, he's a hands-on coach. He's not like a senior executive level type coach. He's going to have his hands in, and I'm going to be, once training camp starts, I'm going to be interested in seeing how that looks, how it looks differently from the camps I've gone to in the past.
Now, Dave, the big thing, and even I've said it a few times, is about, the Steelers always being one and done. What are we going to do this year when we're not even invited to the dance?
Swing and a miss.
Well, I mean, as Mike McCarthy said, is hey,
I got to jump out, guys.
Because he was questioned. You got to go.
Yeah, I got to jump out.
Okay.
Give us your predictions right quick, both. Or should I even ask?
I got I got Seattle 27-24. So I have Seattle winning outright and the Patriots to cover. And that would give me the
over. 4.5.
Yep. So I got the
So
Patriots.
you're taking New England in the over.
I'm taking New England to cover, Seattle to win outright, and the over.
Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
Awesome.
Right.
Take it easy, gentlemen. Enjoy the Super Bowl. See y'all next
All
week.
right. Have a good one.
Okay, take care, Bo.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so what was your question, James?
So, we've always criticized Mike, or one of the big criticisms is that one and done. Are we going to be satisfied this year if we don't make the playoffs? I mean, because I'm thinking with all of the turnovers in the AFC North, we've turned over 3 coaches. Like the days of us having 2 teams, in the playoffs might be over for a little while. And I'm talking about the division in particular. So I'm thinking, like there's a chance that, instead of the Ravens and the Steelers, it'll be the Ravens or the Steelers like it was this year. Are we going to be able to stand not making the playoffs? Or is there going to be that automatic dissension?
Well, I mean, the Steelers fan base is fickle. I mean, if they're losing, they're going to be, let's get the pitchforks and torches and all this kind of stuff, and it's a bunch of noise. And the way I look at it, I listen to, what did Art Rooney said? He wants to be competitive. And what Mike McCarthy said in response to a similar question, are you guys going to be satisfied? He said, hey, we had a playoff caliber roster last year. They won the AFC North with the roster that they had. So what his task is now is to build another playoff roster, because you can't win the Super Bowl unless you get to the playoffs.
True.
And once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. Like, for example, if Pittsburgh had been able to beat the Texans, I'd like their chances against Denver without their starting quarterback. Could have easily been Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl this year.
And in the weather, no, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So this coming year, it's like, okay, I mean, there's a number of questions that have to be answered. Number one is who's going to be the quarterback. Right now, the only quarterbacks on the roster are Mason Rudolph and Howard. That's it. And so they need, and that's not how. If they start week 1 with one of those 2 guys as a starter, we're in trouble. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, or if they can find somebody else to come back, Joe Flacco wants to come to Pittsburgh now.
Kyler Murray, come on! We had Russell and Fields. Why not Kyler? Let's grab Kyler and Geno. Let's bring both of them in. What the hell?
Well, if Kyler even wants to play football.
Yeah.
So I think I think it's a little early yet. I mean, first we got to find out what happens in free agency. Quarterback is the big question. And then the Steelers are going right now. They're projected to have 12 draft choices in this draft. And what do they harvest out of that?
Don, what are we going to do with Jerry's guys? You going to get the defense this year or what? Or are we going to draft wide receivers?
No, we need a solid front 7. Either two stud linebackers in the draft or free agency, or 2 defensive linemen and 1 linebacker. That's what I'm saying. You start your core right there, because your front 7 is what wins games, defensive. So that's where I would go. Now, because that's where I'm going to go, Jerry Jones will go opposite. He'll probably take a receiver and, a running back or whatever.
Bill, what's happening with the Bears?
Well, I mean, they are
a handful of players away, right? I mean, they need another corner. Nahshon Wright, shout out to the Cowboys, right? Former Oregon State corner and former Cowboys corner Nahshon Wright had the season of his life, being, I would say, maybe not quite an all-pro, but I mean, back when Pro Bowl meant something, he had what I call a Pro Bowl season in the old days, meaning that like honorable mention, all NFL level corner. And, some of that goes to the coaching staff. Some of that goes to Mr. Wright working on cleaning up his footwork and, being able to react more quickly because he's 6'2" and 7/8 with long legs. And so, I mean, while you love the length, he was really slow to uncoil and come out of his breaks earlier in his career, both at Oregon State when he was part of probably the tallest twin brother corner tandem in the history of football, right? When Rayshon and Nahshon Wright were the corners at Oregon State. One of them slightly over 6'3", the other one almost 6'3". The fact is that they need, another guy back there. Kevin Byard, another free agent acquisition, balled out, but I don't know how much longer he can do that. They might need to address that in free agency or in the draft. They still have to build quality depth along that offensive line, but most importantly, they need a mismatched pass rusher. A guy that makes you game plan for him, whether that person is someone they find in free agency or in the draft, or maybe even double up. That's the biggest thing that they're missing. They have two talented young tight ends, two talented young wide receivers. They have a very talented young quarterback. The offensive line improved this past season, partially, I think, due to being coached differently by, Coach Johnson and his staff, and partially due to just improvement. But they still need more quality depth there. But they're this far away from being a Super Bowl team.
Okay, well, we'll see. Dave, let's see, we're down to the last game. You and Reggie are tied, I think you said?
Yeah. 14 points apiece.
Okay, well, Bill, you want to give your prediction and final thoughts?
I will give my prediction and final thoughts. My prediction is I'm going to take Seattle, and I'm going to.
It's Seattle is given 4.5 to the Patriots, and the over/under is 45.5.
I will take Seattle on the under. I think it's close. I think it's just misses. I think 44 is the number, so they just end up just under the number. And I feel like the games will be close, 2-3 points, but then something happens towards the end, maybe a tip ball interception while the Patriots are attempting a comeback or something, and that gets returned for a cheap one at the end. So I think they end up covering the number, but just barely, very late in the game. But my final thought, of course, is this is Black.
There was a tiebreaker that James included.
Oh.
How many passing yards will the winning quarterback have?
244. But
now, who will be the winning quarterback?
Well, you didn't ask that.
No, but now, okay, so now
I kind of already did since I picked Seattle and under, so I'm saying that.
The winning quarterback might have less. It's possible.
But Sam Darnold, 19 of 29 for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Okay, I think that's pretty specific. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Black Football History Month, right? So if you follow me on Twitter, you are aware of my Black Football History Month tweet series. I've talked about people like Ray Kemp in the past. I recently wrote about Fordham's first black athlete who also was a quarterback. In fact, was part of a rather unusual quarterback tandem that led the NCAA in passing together as a unit. Interesting enough, they would split about 2/3 to 1/3, roughly. And then he later played in the CFL, but not very long. In fact, he was right after Willie Thrower, someone who's come up before on this show and in my Black Football History Month tweet series. Willie Thrower was in the CFL literally just weeks ahead of Vince, or which name you know him by, who eventually became a successful entrepreneur in Canada and was the first black and one of the first McDonald's franchisees, period, but the first black McDonald's franchisee in Canada. Had several successful McDonald's franchises in Canada and actually did quite well for himself financially with his Fordham, degree and background. But I read about Lou Montgomery recently as well, who broke the color line at Boston College and, like so many black athletes, ended up being left behind on those games below the Mason-Dixon line, including the Sugar Bowl that they were invited to. And there's a very famous picture of him sitting by the radio, listening to his teammates, quote unquote, cheering them on, undoubtedly dying inside. But Frank Leahy, who later went to Notre Dame, was actually the coach at Boston College at the time, and always talked about regretting not, sticking by his player, not standing up for his player. But that was the way things were in those days. But so if you're into black football history, if you go to Twitter, X, whatever, and just, put hashtag Black Football History and click on it, you will see years worth, because I've been doing this for years now, years worth of things I've written about black football history. You'll see about Jerome Brudd Holland. You'll see stuff about Jesse Jackson and his days as a college quarterback. You'll see stuff about obviously people like Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, who was a terrific football player. But many people think basketball is actually Larry Doby's best sport, and he was about to go play for the Harlem Renaissance when he got the call. Right, he was taking college classes and playing Negro League baseball, not really part time, but he was a complicated man. He had a lot going on. Larry Doby did. Bright guy, interesting guy, multi-talented, and wasn't. I don't think baseball was his favorite sport. He was really good at it, but I don't think it was his favorite. I think he really loved basketball. I think he really liked football a lot. And I think he just happened to be really good at baseball. And so he had been sort of not non-committal, but he hadn't fully committed to baseball. And then when Jackie makes it, I think that made him really focus on baseball at that point. But yeah, so if you're interested in Black football history, so if you click on the Black Football History Month or even just Black football history, you'll see a bunch of tweets that I have probably over a decade now at this point about basically almost anything that's happened in the history of black football.
All right. Hey, I'll have to check that out. But Don.
Yes. So I'm going to go Seattle and the under. I think May for I think the injury report on the quarterback for New England May. I think he's had some injuries, so I'm going to go Seattle anyway. But I'll go Seattle in the under. I'm going to say the winning quarterback, which would be Darnold, will probably throw 240. How does that sound?
Good.
That question is really for Dave and Reggie because I don't think anybody can catch up with them.
No, bragging rights. Bragging rights.
Yeah, I'm just in it for the shits and grins. So
there you go.
I'm going to, of course, take Seattle, and I do like the under, and I think it's going to be 215 for the
5-0 or 1-5?
1-5.
Philadelphia.
All right, Dave. Time for you. Don, your final thoughts here.
Okay, I'm gonna say that New England wins the toss in the first and second half. Okay.
How long is the Star Spangled Banner going to be?
Who's singing it? Depends. I mean,
Bad Bunny. No.
No. For the record, no one will ever beat Whitney Houston. So.
There you go.
Okay, so my final thoughts. Kind of a sad last 2 days. One of my high school teammates was killed in a car wreck.
Oh.
Ronnie McGee. He was actually I was on varsity as a sophomore. I was a starter and he was a senior, but he was my backup. But he didn't take. I mean, he knew that. It didn't bother him a bit. His nickname was Cujo. He had this long, stringy blonde hair down to his ears. I mean, he was country boy. Listened to Hank Williams Jr. Always had a Louis L'Amour paperback western in his hand. He loved to read. But yeah, he lost his life in a car wreck, and so we're dealing with that here. But so prayers go out to the McGee family. They lost their mom just 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so Casey's the only one left now. But anyway, that's my final thoughts. Always with the McGee family.
Oh man, hearts always go out. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah,
Dave, take us home here.
All right. Well, everybody took Seattle in the under. I don't know what Reggie's going to do, but I'm going to take New England in the over.
Okay.
And what I don't want to have happen whenever I pick that seems to be working for me this season. And for the winning quarterback, I have 230 is how many yards the winning quarterback threw for. So for my final thoughts, I was never a Tigers fan. And actually, I haven't been a big baseball fan for a long time. I used to be a huge Pirates fan. But Mickey Lolich passed away today.
Oh, that's right.
And 1968, he had 3 complete game World Series wins.
Yep.
I mean, can that even happen today? I don't know. But he and then one of those was he was facing Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
That's when they played the Cardinals, and it was a great. I mean, a beast of a pitcher. I mean,
That was thank God for Armed Forces Radio. That's what that was, 1968. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a great loss. I mean, that's one of the names I remember, being mentioned, quite a bit. But he might not have been the well. He led. He was the left-handed pitcher, and for a while there, he led the league in all-time strikeouts.
Yep.
And I think he's still number 5 for left-handers. I think. But, quite a loss, when you have these guys, these like Iron Men. I just can't. When I read 3 complete game wins, that's a heck of a World Series right there. So, those are my final thoughts for tonight.
All right, guys. Well, next week we'll have a new champion. Of course, I'll be at least a week older. So have a good night, everyone. And look forward to having a great game this Sunday.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry for your loss here, Don.
Yes, indeed.